Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the previous minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? Have a motion and a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise?
I abstain for lack of not being here.
Okay, we've got 4-0-1. Financial status report. Now I know Mr. Our treasurer wants to make a. Do you want to do the whole report? Or?
Yeah.
Tom, come forward and talk to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jeff Richardson talks about how he taught all his fellow constitutional officers, with the exception of Roy Evans. This is the first time I have ever appeared before a board and actually had one of my former Little League players serving on that board. So I'm beginning to get some idea of how Jeff.
It ain't me.
No,
It's Rick's Valley. I'm sorry. You know how that goes.
Anyway, anyway, I am here to give you a brief synopsis of the financial standing at the end of the fiscal year 2021-22 fiscal year. The last 2.5 years have been very challenging to all of us across all industries, and of course the Treasurer's Office is no exception. We, like everyone else, have had to deal with the COVID guidelines. We've had to be closed to the public at times. We've had to quarantine on those times when we've had co-workers to get sick. But we've also been just inundated with acronyms. Everything from CARES to ARPA to ESSERS, all of which stand for various forms of COVID financial relief. Now, although we're happy to have received that relief, it's always been hard enough to maintain, manage, and reconcile our 20 some odd regular bank accounts and our 30 some odd funds, and then with the addition of all this COVID money, that difficulty's been magnified. Additionally, when the board chose to go to quarterly appropriations, that was an adjustment for us. In the past, those of you who were on in the past realized that with the monthly appropriation, we could always look for any month at our unspent appropriations and our cash on hand and look back at the same month in prior fiscal years. Now, that's still not a true apple-to-apple comparison because of issues of timing, like when certain revenues came in this fiscal year compared to previous, and when certain things were paid this year compared to previous. But it gave you some comparison. Since we went to quarterly, we didn't have a baseline to base anything. But now, after 12 months of quarterly under our belt, we can at least do a comparison between this particular month and the same month in the prior fiscal year. The only problem is that that comparison is even less apples to apples because of those issues of timing, because you now have a larger window, a 3-month appropriation compared to the 1-month appropriation. But something I often say in our monthly finance meetings is, please be careful with your appropriations, because you're appropriating and encumbering significantly more money than you have on hand at the time. At the end of the 2021-22 fiscal year, we finished up with $95 million and change in revenue, $93 million and change in expenses. So we had $1.9 million gain based upon expenses to revenue. Now, this may or may not mean anything to any of you, but in that 95 and 93 million, or the 1.9, there are no COVID monies in that, particularly the ARPA and the school's ESSERS, which are now in the general fund checking account. Our revenues were strong, continue to be strong. I'll cite 3 examples. The recently enacted cigarette tax through the first 2 quarters had brought in $116,000. If that trend continues, you're looking at $230,000 to $240,000. Our 1% local sales tax was up a little over $200,000 in June compared to June of the prior year. Now, what that tax is, it's 1% of the local sales tax that the state returns to the locality that we in turn have to then distribute between the county and each of the 3 towns. The county automatically gets the first half of 1%, with the remaining 1/2 of 1% being determined by the school age population. Now, it used to be that every Smyth County school had to do a school census to determine where the kids lived, be it in the county or one of the 3 towns. But back, it's been 10 or more years ago, the state changed that. And so now we have to get an estimate from Weldon Cooper. And it's sort of a complicated thing. But I will say I was pleased, or maybe relieved would be a better way of saying, that the General Assembly did not eliminate the 1% local sales tax on grocery and personal hygiene items. VACO had estimated that would cost us $600,000 this year, $700,000 next year. I got a copy of the state sales tax report from Becky in the Commissioner's office, and I just picked a random month, and I looked at the 5 businesses that I thought would contribute the most in sales tax to grocery and personal hygiene items. I extrapolated that out for a year, and it was nearly $700,000. So I really believe if you were to include all the drugstores, all the dollar stores, and all the convenience stores with those 5 businesses, it would have been closer to $1 million hit on us. Now, in Virginia, real estate and personal property taxes each have a window. And I apologize for some of you who've heard this in the past. But for real estate, it's 20 years. Personal property is 5 years. At the end of the 20th year for a real estate, and the end of the 5th year for a personal property, then we have to write off whatever taxes are not collected. At the end of June, at the end of the fiscal year, we wrote off $93,000 of 2001 real estate and 2016 personal property. Of the $93,000, nearly $92,000 was personal property, with just over $1,000 being real estate by way of minerals. Now, coincidentally, after we had purged those years, we got 2 more payments which would have actually been contributed toward those, and since we'd already purged it, we had to put it in miscellaneous revenue. So I think one of them was $982 and the other one was like $238. But anyway, if you look at the 2001 real estate assessment, the 2016 personal property assessment, that was $12,468,000. So the $93,000 is less than 1% of it. Now I want to talk about penalty and interest, but to give you some perspective, if you take the taxes that are written off every year after the 20 and 5-year period, it would take between 80 and 90 years of writing off taxes to equal the loss in water and sewer since 2003. Think about that. And I know that the water department right now is looking at another write-off because of some excessive accounts, 2 of which combined are nearly $300,000. But penalty and interest. We wrote off 93.
Somebody's holding that.
We wrote-
Somebody needs to be talking to me, I'm sorry.
Related to a non-user fee that should have been charged.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I said we wrote off $93,000. All right, at the end of June, we had collected $733,000 of penalty and interest. The amount of penalty and interest collected always far exceeds the amount of taxes that you had to write off. And if you actually factor penalty and interest, we collect well over 100% of the combined levies. And now we talked about the real estate having 20 years, but let's just focus on the 5 years that personal property tax has and include real estate in that. So at the end of June, before we purged the 01 real, the 2016 personal, we had collected 99% of the 2016 real estate and the 2016 personal property. And we still had 15 more years to collect against real estate. If you look at the 2017 real estate levy, personal property levy, we had collected 99%. And we had 16 more years on real, 1 more year on personal. You look at the 2018 real estate, personal property, we had collected 98%, and we had 17 more years on real, 2 more years on personal. You look at the 2019, we had collected 98% of both real and personal, and we had, 18 more years to collect on real, 3 more on personal. And if you look at the 5th and final year, the 2020, we had collected 97% of the 2020 real, 2020 personal property, and we had 19 more years to collect on real and 4 more years to collect on personal. If you even go to the 6th year, if you look at the 2021 taxes, real estate and personal property, which in June we'd only had 6.5 months of collection activity, we had collected 94%, and we had 20 more years to collect against real and 5 more to collect against personal. So what that illustrates is that in the first 4 or 5 years of a tax levy, we collect 99% of it, and we've got as much as 16 more years to collect against real and 1 more year to collect against the personal. And please note that in these percentages, there is no penalty and interest factored in that. If I were to include penalty and interest, we would have exceeded 100% of nearly every one of the years that I mentioned. Now, at the beginning of each month, we email you all a treasurer's accountability and a little 2-page summary report. On the 2nd page of that summary report, it says what the loss is in water and sewer, how much the total delinquent taxes are. The total delinquent taxes as of now are $3.3 million. That is not $3.3 million off of a single levy. That 3.3 represents real estate now from 2002 to 2021 and personal property from 2017 to 2021. Those combined levies is $231 million. And again, on the 2021s, we've now only had 7.5 months collection. 3.3 million is 0.0142% of 231 million. So that tells us 2 things. First, although we've only had 7.5 months on the 21s, we've already collected 99% of the 231 million. But more importantly, it tells us that we only carry a 1% receivable when it comes to taxes. Now, the reason that number always seems to hover, and it's like it never just drops markedly, is very simple. And it's because we are constantly adding more to collect than we had to collect to begin with. And what I mean by that is, you've got a tax due date, 8 or 9 months later, another tax levy hits. December 5th, following August or September, another 20 million drops into the uncollected totals. And that's why it happens every single year. You're always adding more to collect than you had to collect to begin with. And in essence, you're always drinking water from the glass, but every 8 or 9 months, that glass gets filled back up to the rim. So that's why that. But in summary on the taxes, when it comes to a write-off, it's less than 1%. When it comes to the 5-year window for personal, if you include real in that, in the first 4 or 5 years, we've collected 99%, and we still have as much as 16 more years to collect. 1 more year on personal, and we have the 1% receivable. Now, I've gone on longer than I intended to, but while I was speaking, I thought of something, and Mr. Call, it relates to what you were talking about earlier on people who were struggling and had fines and things. But in Virginia, the single largest receivable for the state of Virginia, as you might guess, is through the Department of Taxation and its state income tax. Do any of you know what the second largest receivable in Virginia is? It's unpaid court fines and fees. Now, these are unpaid court fines and fees that have been either approved or handed down by a judge. They total more than $1 billion, and that's with a B, dollars. If you combine that with everything, not just state income, but everything owed to the Virginia Department of Taxation, it's another $1.6 billion. And Mr. Call, like you were talking about, where people just can't afford, you get out of treatment and then you've got all these fines and things, and there's no way you can pay it off. Well, there's something called an allowance for doubtful accounts. So if you include the allowance for doubtful accounts for both fines and fees and taxes, that's another $1.8 billion. So between unpaid court fines and fees and the Department of Taxation, there's nearly $4.5 billion that's owed. And I think, it's one thing, even for a judge to, say you're to pay this amount. Well, that's fine and dandy, but there's a whole lot more goes into collecting that, amount than there is to say it. That's how much you got to pay. But anyway, I just find that interesting, and when you were talking about that, it made me think of. Anybody have any questions that I can try to answer?
Mr. Chairman? No, but I want to thank you. I've sat on this board 7 years, and this is about an impressive speech I've heard you say the small amount of time you've come in here, and I really appreciate it because you enlightened me on some things.
Well, I appreciate it.
And might even make me want to vote for you again.
Well, I really appreciate that.
No, I do. I appreciate it. You enlightened me on a lot of things.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Tom.
Yes, thank you.
And I was that guy, by the way. Talking about.
We sort of figured that out. Us old folks sort of figured that out.
Easy to rule that one out, isn't it?
Payment of the invoices, I'll entertain a motion. You had the invoices attached. So
I'll second.
have a motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like that was unanimous. Citizens' time. Oh, I thought Mr. Williams was gonna speak.
No, I was just gonna get you to sign up too. Nobody signed up.
I thought, we thought you was gonna tell us about
No,
vacation
you
time.
got-
There's nobody left but a sales lady, and we don't allow them talking.
All right, anybody want to speak, here's a good chance. Hearing none, I'll close citizens' time. Old Business Appointment Committee.
I'm
I believe that's
Page
you right.
93.
huh?
Page 93.
Yeah, I'm getting there. These old fingers don't move like they used to. All right. We held a meeting on Thursday, August the 4th at 9:45. Present was myself and Courtney Widener. Mr. Atkins was sick at the time, I think. I'm glad he's better. Mr. Up presented the appointment for a county representative, Curtis Crawford, to the Southwest Virginia Emergency Medical Service Council that expires July 31 of 22. Following the discussion, the following motion was made. The motion was made by myself to recommend reappointing Curtis Crawford to the Southwest Virginia Medical Service Council Incorporated for an additional 3-year term set to expire on July 31st, 2025. Royal Oak District Supervisor Courtney Widener seconded motion, and it was unanimously approved. It's a committee recommendation.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Likewise.
That's all I had on that, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Budget Committee, since I wasn't here, I'll let, Michael, do you wanna take that one?
I'll take it. Smyth County Budget Committee was held at the County Office Building on Thursday, August 4th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. Members present are myself and Supervisor Lori Deal electronically. Staff members Sean Nutt, Paula Harvey, and Clegg Williams are also present. Lori Deal called the meeting to order at 9:33 a.m. Smyth County Schools budget carryovers from FY 21-22 to where Mr. Rutt discussed a memo from Dr. Carter requesting a budget carryover in the amount of $830,750. In addition, they would also like to include a carryover of $11,000 in Fund 037 textbook fund. County building feasibility study. County will need to carry over a total of $28,000 for the building study. The study itself is roughly halfway through the process, but the building has lagged about 30 days behind. Comprehensive plan update. County will need to carry a total of $15,350 to complete the comprehensive plan update project. Similar to the building study, the billing is on the project is lagging a bit behind, and we need to make sure that the full amount of the contract is accounted for. Feasibility study for dispatch center operations. Mr. Rutt discussed that due to staffing concerns, the project didn't get off the ground in FY 22 and indicated that in the coming weeks we will be meeting with a representative from Washington County. The project budget is $15,000, which is recommended to be carried forward. Dispatch center HVAC. The current HVAC system that serves the server room and dispatch center is undersized and in need of help. One option is to install a larger unit and remove the current unit. Another option is to install an additional unit and each serve the space. Maintenance staff is working on the options, but the anticipated cost and the amount budgeted in FY 22 is $9,500. Route 16 sewer study. Sewer study is finishing up in the next 30 to 45 days. But the engineering firm Draper, Arden and Associates is working through a merger with another engineering firm and thus are a few months behind on billing. County will need to carry over a total of $68,750, of which $25,000 will be reimbursed from the PDC's water wastewater grant program. In total, the FY 23 carryover budget requests a total amount of $978,350. This is less than the 1% threshold. We do not need to hold a separate public hearing for it. Discussion regarding the feasibility study for dispatch center operations continued, and the following recommendation was made to revisit the $15,000 budget for the project at a later date and move forward with the FY 22-23 carryovers without this project. A motion was made by Tri District Supervisor Michael Sturgeon to recommend approving the FY 22-23 budget amendment 2 to include budget carryovers from FY 21-22 as discussed, with including the feasibility study for dispatch center operations for total carry amount of $963,350. Valley District Supervisor Lori Deal seconded the motion. It was unanimously approved. Mr. Rutt also discussed the need for a better track the transfer station construction project, Fund 505. He said he would like the board's consideration transferring $2 million in the current CIP budget to the transfer station construction budget. Mr. Rutt noted this will be net neutral effect on the current budget and thus should not require a public hearing. After discussion, the following motion was made. The motion was made by Chi District Supervisor Mike Sturgeon to recommend approving the transfer station construction fund in the amount of $2 million from capital improvement funds to the transfer station construction fund. Round Valley Supervisor Lori Deal seconded the motion, which is unanimously approved. No further business. The meeting adjourned at 9:47 a.m.
Okay, we have the committee made 2 motions for us, and let's take them one at a time. The first one is the budget amendment number 2, and I think on the next page of our packet, Is that the breakdown of that?
Yes, sir. Page 99?
Yeah, page 99 or 96?
The 96 is the school board portion.
Yeah.
And page 99 is the full spreadsheet.
Yeah, so we looked at page 99, but that is a committee recommendation, so all those in any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Any abstentions?
I can vote on that one, Craig.
Okay, so it's unanimous. Second part of it was the approval of, I guess the best way to say it is segregating the $2 million funds for the transfer station construction. Committee recommendation, any discussion? Hearing, I think it's great that we can track that a lot. I mean, we've had over the years, it's been a fiasco sometimes trying to track some of these projects, so I'm tickled to see this. Hearing nobody wanting to discuss it, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like that was unanimous. I guess the schools can operate now.
Thank you, sir.
Something came to mind as we were talking here. These people are behind in billing us. I think we're to pass a resolution, we don't have their bills in 60 days, we don't pay them. They do that to us all the time. I mean, they're ready to foreclose and everything
Or
else.
take 10% off every month.
Yeah, something like that. Just be careful we don't get in a hole, because that can come back to really bite you if someone gets behind billing you and all of a sudden you get a tremendous bill. I serve on a couple of nonprofit boards, and it can be a real problem. So having said that, I'll move on and shut up. Building and Grounds Committee. Who is that?
Actually, Mr. Williams.
Okay.
So a meeting of the Smyth County Buildings and Grounds Committee was held at the Smyth County Office Building Thursday, August 4th, 2022 at 10:30. Members present was Chilhowie District Supervisor Michael Sturgill, the chair, and Round Valley District Supervisor Lori Deal. Committee members absent was Park District Supervisor Chris Ratliff. Staff members present were Sean Utt, Paula Harvey, myself, and Dennis Greer. Others present was the director of the Smyth County Public Library, Rose. Chairmember Chilhowie District Supervisor Michael Sturgill called the meeting to order at 10:32. County Administrator Sean Utt presented the following for discussion. Smyth County Public Library HVAC unit replacement. Mr. Utt reported that the HVAC unit that covers part of the top floor at the library is not working. He discussed the quotes received for the necessary repairs to the unit. Mr. Utt did note that the county attorney should have a draft lease agreement available soon to help formalize the county's responsibilities as the building's owner. The committee agreed to send the lease agreement once received to the full board for review. Mr. Greer recommended going ahead and moving forward with the train estimate and said the library can be added to the county's existing train service contract for future service and maintenance. Discussion continued. A motion was made by Round Valley District Supervisor Lori Deal to recommend moving forward with the HVAC replacement quote from Train in the amount of $16,975 to be pulled from supplemental appropriations. Chilhowie District Supervisor Michael Sturgill seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved. With no further business to discuss, the meeting adjourned at 10:39.
All right, so we have a committee recommendation to approve the $16,975 for the heat and air. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think that's a total rip-off. I'll just put a new heating system in, air HVAC for the houses. I know it's a lot bigger than the upper floor of the library. It's $7,500.
It's a 10-ton unit.
I think so, and I think, yeah, half
Is
of
this
it's
the
down.
full unit? Because I've seen the breakdown in the,
All they're doing is replacing the unit, they ain't replacing the ductwork, are they?
No.
That's just a ridiculous price. Which train is capable, I know we got training, but I think we can get that price in half, even on a 10-ton unit. I got one unit in my house with 3,600 square feet. So how many square feet's in top of the library? And they need a heat pump. Look, let's don't rip every government agency off every time we give them a price to put one in.
We did get three quotes,
How close was that?
right there, they were all,
They were all within 1,000 to 1,500 of one another. The reason that I think the committee recommended Train is because we already have a service contract with them for this building, the courthouse, and health department.
Who was the two other quotes?
well, I've got
Two
it
by
back.
three. Who's right, they were all $1,500, $1,000.
Was it a 10-ton unit?
There's some additional details under scope of service that will tell you specifically what they're proposing to replace.
Yeah, I think that was the question I was having was,
Here it is.
I just seen the breakdown of all that and I didn't realize it was the whole unit. I thought it was just different certain parts. It's, but this is the entire system,
Yeah.
other than the ductwork.
Yes.
It won't be the ductwork.
Starnes out of Lebanon gave a quote in Comfort Systems out of Bluntville.
But they was all on Train.
It's a carrier,
Was it a carrier one?
carrier unit.
It's a carrier unit.
Yeah, okay.
The condenser and heat pump.
The scope of service was to recover the refrigerant in both circuits, remove the evaporator, remove suction dryer on circuit 1, and straight pipe install new evaporator, replace the liquid line dryers, do leak search, evacuate and recharge with recovered refrigerant, check operations.
Basically, that's everything but the ductwork.
Yep.
All right, that's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
I think it's.
Continue it the way we generally are, now that it's mid-August, to be September, October before they get it done. You know, it seems like we're always, they needed it this summer, so, you know, maybe we need to look at the heat instead of the air conditioning. I mean, it seems like in the springtime, we're looking at finally getting heat in buildings, be it this building. And now air conditioning needs to be over pretty soon, we're looking at getting air conditioning. Can we get this stuff in the right seasons?
I put one in for $7,500. I don't know the difference in square feet. I'm on the Train. But the bad thing about Train, and I researched this hard, it took 3 months for us, we lived without air conditioning for 3 months. I researched it because I wanna make sure I get the best one there is. And the kick I heard, what?
You got air conditioning?
I do now.
Big truck?
I don't even have one. Can I come up
Anywhere
here?
else I can get besides But anyway, the kickback.
Go ahead.
I'm glad the paper's lady's gone because I'm gonna use a word here that some of the
I guarantee you I've heard it.
Can I finish?
Yes, you may, go ahead, turn your mic on though, we want everybody to hear you.
The big kick I seen between Carrier and Train was that Train has double the switches. The parts is twice as expensive when you go to repair it. And Carrier was cheaper on replacing parts and had less of moving parts. And actually, it was another brand, a Goodman, that stood out above most of them. Now, they're not brand names like Purina Dog Food, but the Carrier and the Train that I seen was a major difference in service and repairs. And I talked to several different people who was in heating and air, and, you know, everybody says you can't stop a train. But they said the big deal with the Train is when it goes down, where Carrier's got a $175 part, Train's got a $1,700 part on the same, just throwing it out there. So, you know.
I can tell you, a big deciding factor in taking this one was because of the county service contract that we already have in place.
Yeah, we'll just give them a little more money, make them richer, we'll never
Warranty's
stop
the
the
same
bleed.
on them? The warranty's the same?
Yes, they were.
And you're in the building. What do you think? Am I wrong? Or do you hear this, or
Well, when did you put your heat pump in?
a month ago?
I mean, in general, construction costs are through the roof right now. So it's not surprising to see high figures.
I ain't talking about that, I'm talking about carrier and train.
Oh, well, we're talking about a carrier unit that's up there.
Huh?
We're talking about a carrier unit.
Carrier units up there, but you're going with the
But
train.
we're going with train, and again, like Mr. Sturgis said, it's because they have the contract on our 3 other buildings, so
My
instead of
question to
carrying.
you is the train cost a lot more to service?
Oh, yes, it does.
So I'm right, so we're spending a lot more money every time we service them, even though we got a service contract with train.
I would say that we are, but again, everybody, I don't know how the last bids went when we put this out for, but I would assume train was very competitive, if not the lowest bid, when the county hired them whenever the last.
But they're not giving you a bid on parts, they're giving you a bid on labor, right?
Correct.
The parts is what I heard, and I researched it hard, because I burned up for 3 months. And I thought, not again.
That's Marion Library, right?
Yes.
Correct.
It's,
Why ain't Marion doing it?
That's
county building.
It's our building.
Why don't they get them a building?
So.
It's our building that we start to change some kind of rule down there, and then Marion owns.
Well, so that's one reason that we're asked Scott to work on basically a lease agreement between the county and the library, so that we don't get caught in this surprise again. Because every time something blows up, they call the owner.
Chilhowee does theirs, Howell does theirs.
Yep.
I just think that maybe the savings on repairs and stuff, if we went with Carrier, the $1,500, and them suckers break down. I mean, they're terrible. For a fan to go out, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because I respect your end of the knowledge in that. They go out on a regular basis. And repairs, how much do we spend on repairs?
Over the year,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, the maintenance loan is,
20 for all the buildings.
I think
and
it's
all the towers.
20,000 once we had the library. And that's just for the routine inspections and the basic maintenance. That's not anything major like this.
That's just my opinion on a train. I know we got the contract, it makes it simple to get people, but sometime or another, I think you just stop the bleeding.
I think we have one more year on the current service contract, and we'll have to bid it out again anyway for the train.
Do we have trains here? Everything here, we got a train?
I'm assuming it is,
That
because
I
they're the
don't
ones
know.
that maintain it. I know it's a train that's in the health department. We just put that in CARES Act about 1.5 years ago.
Was train a low bidder?
Again, I don't know if we do this on 5-year cycles, how do we do it?
It was a 3-year cycle.
On the maintenance? So they're 2
No,
years
I'm
in.
talking about
Come up again next year.
installing this heat pump. Was they the low bidder?
No, they were not the low bidder. But it was, like I said, I think it was about $1,000, $1,100 difference.
And another part of this equation was one of the other bidders is the one that's been responsible for the maintenance of this unit, and it's been down for multiple years. And so the idea was not to go with them because they, in a sense, put us in this bind.
By not maintaining.
By not maintaining it. By some accounts, this 5-ton unit hadn't run since it was installed. And the only time we see issues is when the temperature gets above 90 or 92 degrees. Because the half the unit, 5 tons, can cool it, can handle the cooling requirements up to about 90 degrees, but when it gets hotter than that, and the second unit's supposed to supplement, it was never working. And it was really discovered this summer, and that's when we got somebody else to look at it and say, ooh, this thing's not even running.
Yeah, when you get to that kind of temperatures, they ain't no air conditioning that produces good. They start losing the hot.
And that was another thing I think the committee debated, the fact that one of the other bidders was the party responsible for inspecting and maintaining the unit, and they effectively hadn't been doing it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion?
We just put a elevator in there.
Yes, sir.
How much was that? 50,000?
Yeah, 48 and change, I believe.
I think we ought to tear them all down. Get rid of all of them and go to the center of the county and build one major library. Don't you know that'd make everybody happy, but she's gone, so.
Okay, we have a motion before the board to approve the recommendation to move forward with the HVAC replacement quote from Train in the amount of $16,975 to be pulled, from supplemental appropriations. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna vote against it.
Any opposed? We have one nay.
Yeah.
I was gonna vote no too, but if I do that, it don't get passed, so I guess I'll vote aye.
Don't let that stop you. I'm surprised that that's the only reason you change your vote.
They need air conditioning, but I sort of like your argument to a certain extent. We need to look at some of those things.
I'm gonna tell you, Charlie, I know you feel bad, and I don't wanna keep you here, but you wouldn't believe the difference in the parts, and you know, I don't like salesmen, sorry. It's just the truth, I hate salesmen. But I went back and checked while I was burning up on the difference of parts, and it's unreal. I mean, it's just unreal. You're talking thousands of dollars. And you tell me an air conditioner or any unit that don't start giving you a trouble just as soon as the daggone warranty runs off.
Well, sometimes you pay for the color. I know John Deere parts are a lot more than New Holland, so, but motion passes with one nay vote.
I thought you was gonna stay with me.
Nah, I'm gonna get their air conditioning in there for them. Moving on.
I thought you did.
Well, I was gonna vote against it.
It wasn't me.
I'm right in. We can charge them more rent to get a good air.
I sit on the table with a bunch of bleeding hearts.
Yep. Public Safety Committee meeting, I guess we don't
You
have
calling
to.
me a bleeding heart? You sat there and argued 30 minutes over
Mr.
a
Chairman,
nickel?
Mr. Chairman.
You wanna handle this one, Mr. Courtney?
Oh, give me a gun, absolutely.
What?
This is the Public Safety Committee, correct?
Right.
Okay. Public Safety Committee had met on August 4th, 2022, Smyth County Boardroom. It was called to order at 11:07 a.m. Roy Deal called the meeting to order. In attendance was Ms. Deal, who was virtual, Mr. Sturgill, and myself. Staff present was Mr. Utt, County Administrator, Mr. Williams, Assistant Administrator, Mr. Crawford with the Emergency Services, Mr. Joanna, Smyth County Sheriff's Office, Ms. Harvey, Administrative Assistant, Mr. Dempsey, Director of Smyth County Information Technology. GIS King and Moore, Mr. Crawford had advised the recent changes to GIS mapping for the county. It would help Manual Street GIS coordinator if we could enter into a more formal arrangement with Brandon Moore of King Moore GIS. Noted that as we work toward next gen 911, we will need additional technical assistance and training as the requirements expanded. County Administrator Sean Utt noted that the funds can be moved within the current departmental budget to cover the anticipated costs. Motion was made by myself to recommend going into a contract with King Moore for technical assistance for GIS system maintenance and operations. Child District Supervisor Michael Sturgill seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved.
Let's handle that one.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion from the committee. It didn't mention dollar amount. Do we need to be thinking?
It was
It was like, was it 250?
250 a quarter. It was minimal, $1,000 or less. It was less than $1,000.
Okay, any more discussion on this one? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like it passed.
We get to y'all, hang in back there.
In reference to the radio study, Mr. Crawford advised the final RFP for the radio study is complete and presented it to the committee. Noted that the RFP includes a P25 system that is open to UHF, VHF trunking or non-trunking, and the PSAP revisions be made as necessary.
Mr. Dempsey, Director of IT, advised that he had reviewed, and from his side of everything, it looks good. Mr. Ed advised that the federal engineering is still working with the county and will work through the negotiations of a final vendor contract. Mr. Crawford noted that the federal engineering is working to create a worksheet to score proposals as we get them. A motion was made by Chilhowee District Supervisor Mr. Sturgill to recommend presenting the radio study RFP to the full board for approval to advertise. Myself, I had seconded the motion, it was unanimously approved. You want to go ahead with that one too?
Yes, yes. Motion from the committee?
What are we? I mean, basically, help me out here.
This is the next step in finding out what the true price is. So this is the full RFP that will be advertised. We'll give them 60 to 90 days. We know of some vendors that might be interested in putting a proposal together, and then we'll be able to have a better idea of what it's going to cost.
What I'm lost at is what particular system are we talking about? Any in particular?
If whatever comes in.
That's what we're looking for by
Flexibility and coverage.
moving forward.
based on what we forward.
Yeah, we're basing it on coverage area rather than specific systems.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? We have the request for proposal here. I started reading through that. Way above my pay grade.
Yeah, me too, but I'd like, when we get to that point, I want somebody sitting there answering some questions for me.
Well, I want to make sure it's not it's done right this time, so. All right, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it passed.
Another discussion, Mr. Crawford noted the county chiefs meeting will be Monday, August the 8th. Salt Fire Department, next public safety committee meeting is set for September 1st at 11 a.m. Mr. Crawford said that the next LEPC meeting will be August 18th at Smyth County Career and Technical School in 7 Mile Ford from 10 to 12. From the Rhine Valley District Supervisor, Ms. Deal, complimented on the turnout for the National Night Out recently in Chilhowee, and that it was great to see responders working together in our county, and the meeting had adjourned at 11:34 a.m.
All right, moving on now to the Water and Sewer Committee meeting. Mr. Call.
Okay, we had a Water and Sewer Committee on Thursday, August 4th at 10 a.m. Members present was myself, Ms. Laura Deal was electronically. Phil Stevenson was absent.
I was.
Running around. Okay. I opened the meeting at 10:03 a.m. Mr. Williams discussed information regarding the following. Request for permanent pump and haul permit. Mr. Williams discussed a request from Mr. Michael Walkup, who owns 2 cabins in the Fox Valley Road area in Marion. Mr. Williams advised Mr. Walkup was planning to use them for Airbnb and is requesting a permanent pump and haul permit for said properties. Mr. Williams did indicate that the property could have a specialized septic system, but noted that it is very expensive and the owner has requested for the permit for that reason. Mr. Williams said historically this type of permit has not been approved. So Mr. Call said he would prefer to send it to the full board for consideration, discussion to continue. A motion was made by Lori Deal to recommend sending the permanent pump and haul permit without a committee recommendation to the full board for discussion and consideration. I seconded the motion and it was unanimously approved. We adjourned the meeting at 10:10. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Committee, send it to the full board.
All right, thank you very much. Is the gentleman requesting the pump and, I always call it pump and run, is he present?
I don't think so. I've been working primarily with Stephen Cannon. He is the designer that came out and evaluated the property and determined that a traditional system cannot be approved. And so he made a request on Mr. Walkup's, behalf, to the board, for a permanent pump and haul.
Click, could you tell me what a pump and haul?
Sure.
That's the first time I've heard that term.
So, anytime you don't have access to public sewer, typical, protocols, we send you to the health department, they'll come out and they will perk your property, and they will determine, if a traditional gravity-fed system could be installed. So, all the sewage leaves your house, goes to a septic tank and then to a drain field, and that's the most economical system that can be installed. In this case, because of topography and soil conditions, I assume, that system cannot be approved. So, and ironically, the health department's getting out of the business of laying out septic systems. So this gentleman is working with a soil scientist, a private third party, who's come out and made that determination, but has told him that he can get an alternative system approved. I don't know what that is, but typically alternative systems are very expensive.
What are you
They're
talking about very expensive?
sand filters, I'm talking probably, I would estimate $20,000-$25,000.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, of course, during the conversation, he said, that another possibility is if the local board of supervisors approves a pump and haul. Now, a pump and haul is where you eliminate that whole drain field. Basically, everything goes into a holding tank, and then you pay a third party to come pump that out and haul it to a sewer treatment plant. The health department can approve that only with you all's backing, so that if something happens, then that owner doesn't follow through on their obligation, then you all are on the hook to see that that is done. These come up not often, but typically they come up in the past for churches. Churches are a pretty good example of they're there once or maybe twice a week. If they can't put in a traditional system, then they show up and ask for a pump and haul. We've had one in Smyth County's history, to my knowledge, has been approved. That was the Dip Dog. That obviously was an exception to the rule, and I can't speak for the board that made that decision, but I think one of the biggest factors was that public sewer was proposed in that area, and they knew that that would be a very short-term solution, because as soon as public sewer was made available, they were able to hook to that.
You're correct.
So, effectively,
Could you give him some negatives of pump and haul if you know of any, and why most of the time it ain't approved?
typically the liability that you assume. If there's an issue, if there's an issue, you're on the hook to clean it up. If he doesn't step up and clean it up or have it pumped, then the board gets the call and gets the invoice.
It overflows or something, they're gone, or
Is there an
you're
issue?
gonna pay for it.
If he does something wrong with dump some wrong thing at then we're liable. Not him.
Is there an issue with that type of, system being utilized with the location of that river, where it's at?
It's all trapped, it's not, it doesn't have a drain field, so it stops in the tank, and you come and pump it out, so it's
You're
all.
talking-
I mean, it's still far enough, whatever it would be, I mean, outside of I guess the floodplain or whatever.
Actually, the bulk of that's probably part of his problem. The bulk of his property is in the floodplain and floodway. There's only a very small portion of his property that's outside the floodplain. And I would say that's leading to that's
Is these
creating part of his
rentable
problem.
cabins or just,
Yeah, so these are basically 2 utility sheds that have been converted into cabins
that he's gonna rent out
that he intends to rent out. That's my understanding.
on a basis of weekly or?
I would imagine for most Airbnb arrangements, it's nightly, it's weekly. Some folks will do it long-term at a discounted rate.
The problem in the past is you hit just on it, and yeah, I missed that, but you couldn't make a decision. The big thing I have against them is our accountability. We're depending on somebody out there, and we're accountable for it. Now, if he didn't have sewer at all, I think me and you sat in on the dip dog stand, we done that because it was gonna be a short-term accountability for us. We knew public sewers. I don't like to get in a long-term accountability. The fact that, yeah, it costs $20,000 to put a more elaborate filter system in, he can get it. And he's gonna be making income. I mean, It's a business. I don't think a county ought to accept the liability for a business like that when he has an option, the fact that it cost him $20,000, I'm sorry. But I don't think you ought to lay the liability of a possible $20,000 or $100,000 on the taxpayers because he don't want to spend $20,000 to put in an elaborate system. I don't like pumping halls. I don't like pumping halls because we are liable.
Is that a code of Virginia that we're liable?
You can have another entity liable for it if he could get some other agency, like the state or something like that, or a town to be liable for it or something. He just happens to be in the county, correct?
Correct. Typically, it's the local jurisdiction.
If he comes out of the county, then we're liable for it.
If he
Well,
just
if-
leaves, we're liable for it.
If you start approving, I mean, if you start approving these, I mean, where's that cutoff gonna be? To where we're assuming that liability? That would be my question. I mean, are we getting into something we don't want to
discussed
touch?
being bonded, to have it bonded, or there's so much money set aside to cover this, like a corporation does, you know, they have to bond so much area.
If he goes down the interstate and has a wreck, and he spills everything,
No, that's the whole.
and he kills him, we're still liable for that sewage.
No.
I would imagine that would be on the hauler, the third party that's hired to haul it, but I would be
It's on
probably.
his property.
Yeah, I would be more worried about spills into the river, and then, just him not pumping it, yeah.
Litigation to cover that.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
We have to sue to enforce them.
I make a motion we deny it. You know, he's got a chance, he can put an elaborate system in. $20,000 is not outrageous for sewers these days, it's changed a whole lot, am I right?
Yeah, that's not the guaranteed price, that's just the price that was thrown out there. We don't know what it costs.
I mean,
Any alternate system costs 2 to at least 3 times what a traditional system costs.
I make a motion to deny the permit.
Second.
Have a motion second, any further discussion? I would like to state over the years, we've lost a couple of good restaurants that the public would have loved to have seen in this county because we would not approve pumping hall.
Well, the Rich Valley Fire, they dabbed in it there first when they built their new community center, didn't they?
And once we say yes, we
Figured it
started the
out.
slippery slope.
And that's the other aspect I think the committee discussed was the precedents that would be set, because if you did approve it, there's been at least one other one since Sean's been here. We had a gentleman that wanted to put in a restaurant, public sewers directly across the street, happened to be Route 11, very expensive to do a road bore and make a sewer connection, and he effectively wanted to get a pump and haul to avoid that cost. So yes, I would imagine if this were approved, you would see a lot more applications.
I think me and you was on the last pumping hall permit, and I think this was how we felt.
I just wanna make it clear, this is for, what we're looking at is they're requesting a permanent.
It says permanent pumping hall. Any more discussion? The motion is to deny the request. All those in favor of denying the request, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise.
Got me more.
Okay. Now, I think we can get into why we have some spectators. Recommendation from Planning Commission.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. After last month's public hearing on July 28th, the following motion was rendered in regards to the special use permit for Tommy and Phyllis Gross for an accessory building. With no further discussion, Commissioner Paul Shepard made a motion to recommend to the board that the special use permit to place an accessory building in excess of 150 square feet on a vacant lot be approved. Commissioner Davidson Jr. seconded that motion, and the following vote was recorded. 5 yeas, Campbell, Davidson, Dean, Shepard, and Wagner, 1 absent, Spence, and 1 vacant, the Park District.
Okay, the motion is, I guess we need a motion, don't we?
Yes, you all would.
I move to accept the planning commission
Recommendation.
recommendation.
We have a second down there, I heard. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise. Sounds like that was unanimous.
I didn't say aye, but I made the motion, so I voted for it.
I took it that way.
Thank y'all very much.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Hey, it was good entertainment.
They're fine, my feet's frozen.
Do we need to read through all these? I'm ready to make a motion on all three of them. Do we need to hear everything, Charlie?
Probably, I don't know.
I think you make a motion to approve both, there are two remaining recommendations from the planning commission, if you so choose.
I do. I make a motion to approve the last two. And in that, I wanna commend you people. I mean, to work with mental illness, it takes a special person. You don't believe me, ask my wife, she lives with it.
I'd rather see us take them one at a time,
All right, I'll move.
but without reading everything, just,
Well, the next one's a community connection support service for group care facility, right?
right.
I make a motion to accept the planning commission's recommendation and pass.
We have a couple of seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous. All right, now for the last one.
Thank y'all.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all so much.
We look forward to working with you.
We'll be your first customers.
Yeah.
All
Got a
right.
motion.
You got a motion, I'll make a motion to accept the planning commission's recommendation, to approve along the Lee Highway. I actually had a little problem with this, but this was in your district, so I went along with it. So, if you vote against it, I'm gonna regret making the motion.
Well, my first tendency was to vote against it, and I talked to the landowners around it, and they're all in agreement that they have no problem with it. And I pointed out to them that this is permanent. You may love this guy, but he may have a girlfriend that's gonna own it someday and you may hate, and, they're okay with it.
I don't like rezoning like that, and the fact that we're gonna redo it to commercial again all the way through there, is that right? In the
Yeah.
plan? You know, this is just a loophole to get a double wide in, but now you was good with it?
I'm good with it.
So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Sounds like that was unanimous. Any new business we've not talked about? We pretty well covered everything tonight.
Everything, never.
The report from the county attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to report at this time.
Hadn't done anything all month then, I guess.
You know you're in trouble when a lawyer don't say that.
Thank you, Scott. County,
Yeah, I just have one thing to throw out. Mr. Blevins has been working with Washington County on recycling, and we're gonna bring recycling back to the county, starting with #1 plastics in the Wilkinson Mill, Atkins, Fish Hatchery, Hungry Mother, and McCready's Gap stations. It's just #1 plastic, so it's basically a clear plastic bottles, but it's a start. So I'm hoping that we can expand it in the future, but I just want to let you know that.
Good. Okay. Supervisor comment time.
I figured
#1 is Phil Stevenson.
What I had to go first. I don't have anything. I do appreciate y'all, and I rarely say that because I hate to brag on us, but I appreciate it when we work through stuff, even though I didn't get the nickel out of you.
Roscoe Cottle.
Now, wait a minute, I ain't done, Charlie.
You know he's gonna go longer than that.
I got one more thing and I'll be done. Listen, we got one store on the north side of the back of the Dragon, and we pushed it the back of the Dragon. We spent $1.2 million top at the overlook to invest in the back of the Dragon. That store wants to cook and stuff. You know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
Steve Harris. I understand that they're probably gonna get their permit by Saturday. They've already designed, the design is going to. You jump in and correct me anytime I get it wrong.
What are they gonna do?
They need to put in a sewer system.
Oh, so.
And this store's doing good, but it would do real good. They're not drawing the tours because they can't cook in it. They had a septic system and whatever, jump in here and help me, we'll make this quick.
Same problem, small lot, didn't work very well, needs an alternate system, it's very expensive. We met with him and he should be pursuing, some of the ARPA funds.
If they can't get the ARPA funds, you told me you didn't think that was gonna happen.
It'd be
Am I
tight.
dreaming or having nightmares about you, or did you tell me that, or what?
I'm glad that you're dreaming about me, but,
I ain't dreaming about you, I'm having nightmares.
I think it could be a worthwhile loan through the EDA though.
That's the motion I'm getting ready to make, to work with them. I think they said the engineer that you helped them with, and you, Kinder, I appreciate you, you've really helped them. Steve Harris is a good guy, works up top. I would like to make a motion for us to approve the money.
25.
Yeah, and
25,000.
give you some leewance to come back that runs more than that, send to the EDA for forgivable loan and low interest loan, whatever you tell me we think we ought to do, Charlie.
Well, I think we had better differentiate this one from the one we just turned down, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm sitting here knowing you.
Well, this one, and one thing of the difference would be, meals tax, ability.
Well, not only that, this is the only restaurant over that area for miles, so.
Why are we gonna promote the back of the dragon if we can't get something back on that side?
But I'm just wanting to make sure we put that in public records, that it is different than what we just turned down.
We will get meals tax money back.
Yep.
She just wanting a sewer.
We could also consider if they want to do a loan for the pump and haul, or we could consider a loan for that too.
Well, the liability is what worries about us.
Yeah, I don't wanna do the pump and haul, but we could do if we wanna offer a loan to the store, we can also offer a loan to the cabins. A loan.
To do.
To install an
For the
alternate
alternate
system.
system.
But I'm hesitant to do that because we're not desperate for a B&B over in that neck of the woods as we are to have a food source over on 16 North.
We have an Airbnb tax now.
Yep.
Well, this is one more argument I have on that.
You'd have to offer them both the same thing.
I've heard the town of Marion come in and how the back of the dragon has helped their revenue and done all this and all that. We've done nothing over yonder to bring in revenue on that side of the mountain. And them people's the ones had to put up with the idiots that are driving that road. And I make a motion, we help them with either a forgivable loan or a low interest loan. Now, you the CPA, you tell me and I'll make the motion on that part.
Make it for the low interest loan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Unless we can come up with some ARPA money or something like you're saying. We can come up with some free money, but I wanna make this available.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Now I'm done.
It sounds like it's unanimous. Roscoe, your turn.
I appreciate everybody being here and having fun, getting things done, and God bless everybody, and find some way to take the batteries out of them, we're ready to go.
God dang, you got a lot of ready to talk. How'd you come up with more ignorant stuff than anybody I ever seen?
People just left, I'm gonna send you with.
Well, I'd like to thank the Smyth County Library and also the Smyth County Historical Society. Did an awesome job with our teachers on Professional Development Day. Also like to put a plug in for Fire and Rescue, all the great jobs they do, and keeping our people, the citizens of Smyth County safe. And also we've had I think a very good start to the school year. Students are happy to be back. We have a tremendous shortage. I don't know if you saw the news. I want to say 360,000 teaching positions are open nationwide. People are not going into teaching and they're leaving the profession. But it is very difficult to fill positions. So please keep that in thoughts and prayers going forward. That's going to be a nationwide problem. So thank all of you, and I really like the idea of what we tonight of working together and coming up with a solution we can all live with. I think we're getting better and better by the day as this board. So thank you all.
All right, my name was the next one drawn, and I just want to thank everybody. For being here and discussing. You know, sometimes it don't seem like we're getting much, but it's out there. If somebody wants to watch the video, they can see where we've talked about it. They know where we're coming and why we did what we did. You know, I remember days where everything, we come in here and we took a vote and you really didn't even know what you was voting on. So it's different now, and I appreciate that. I thank you all, and be safe going home. Final word to you, Mr. Courtney.
You don't take too long.
Everybody tells me.
I said words, I didn't say paragraph.
I'll make it quick. So I'm just glad that, again, we was able to make some, I think some really good decisions tonight and talk about some things, and I hope we can continue to do so. Again, I was really glad to see the people with Octagon House here. I think that's an amazing group that's really working really hard to do everything they can, and I think it's very important for us to be able to do what we can to help support that because of all their efforts that they're showing. The only thing other than that I really have is, again, just thank you to the staff for the county administration and Curtis and everybody over here. I don't know how y'all do it sometimes. I really don't, but I just want to throw it out there again. Thank you guys for all you do.
All righty, there's anything else we need to talk about?
I got one more thing.
Oh,
We went to the Teacher of the Year dinner out at the park. It was a great thing. I loved it. Had a great time. Everybody was good.
Yes, it was, yeah.
I regret, I missed that this year.
I know,
I've
right?
missed it in 3 or 4 years.
I was looking for you. I said, he's always there. I got all of them.
You can look at this crowd and tell which ones go to the free dinner.
I'll tell you the other one.
They really bragged on us too, didn't they, Ross?
They bragged on us,
Yeah, they sure they did.
Said, we're glad Phil didn't come.
I brag on my dog when he's barking.
Well, thank you all. We'll see you back in about 2 weeks.
I'm hoping we won't have to have a meeting, so we may skip the second meeting in August.
Oh, that'd break my heart.
I'll get some signatures from you, please, sir.
You retired.